Welcome back. This is the second in our collection of bookshelves that we are going to be creating for our live stream YouTube sessions. This is Fusion 360 for beginner woodworkers, and we are using Fusion 360. This is educational, but you can do all of this in the free version, no problem at all. So we're going to get started by modeling from the top and creating a new sketch. We'll select a center point rectangle, and we're going to give the dimensions of our shelf. We're going to use different dimensions for these ones than we did for the other. We're going to make a wider bookcase. We are going to make it 27 inches wide, and we are going to have fairly shallow shelves. We will make them 9 1/8. That's pretty good. We are going to have shelves that look like that, and we are going to have a side that comes over here. It's easier just to draw it not where it's going to be. Then we'll click our collinear constraint and make the lines line up. We will draw a dividing line down the center because we're only going to model one side of our actual shelf, and we will click on this dimension tool and we will give a dimension to our side piece. We're going to have those side pieces be 1 inch and 3/16. Now we hit Finish Sketch, and we're going to model one of those shelves and our side. We'll start with the shelf. We will click on here and pick just one side of our shelf, and we're going to make that exactly 1 3/16 thick. They're going to be quite thick shelves. This is a very, very thick bookcase. I think it might be even a little bulky for what we are going for here. I know these are the dimensions I was given for this, but I think we're going to call this 11/16 thick. And if they want to make them thicker, they can do it, but it is rather thick already. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, where do I actually want that shelf to be? If we right-click on it and hit Edit Feature, I think we're going to have that start exactly 4 inches off the bottom, off the floor. Not quite as high off the floor as the last one we did. Now, I'm going to say I want to create a side, and we're going to make this bookcase 58 inches tall. It's going to be quite a tall bookcase. And we will say New Component and hit OK. Now the first one I created as a body to show you how to make the change. If you have something as a body and you want it as a component, create components from bodies. And now component 2 is our shelves, and component 1 is our legs. Always good to name them in a way that makes sense. All right, so I want to create some joinery before we go and duplicate things around. So I'll turn off the leg, and we will say I want to do a new sketch on the outside of, oh, we don't need the sketch, on the outside of our shelf. We are going to join this with through tenons. We're going to actually make proud through tenons. So I will draw a line through the center, make it a guideline by hitting X so it doesn't actually divide the piece, and I'm going to create a center point rectangle. My center point rectangle is actually going to be a square, so I will hit the equals constraint and make the two sides equal to each other. That makes it a square. Now, if I hit dimension, I am going to tell it that between the outside and the outside of our shelves, the outside of our tenon and the outside of our shelves, I want there to be a 1/16 of an inch gap. That will mean that the thing will not be showing even if we have a little bit of imprecision in it, and we can figure it out on the outside. Now, that looks pretty good. I want to create a rectangle pattern. Whoops, no. I want to actually make the thing first. So I'm going to click on it here with our extrude tool. We want it to go one side, and it is going to go to the outside of our leg. So we will turn our leg on, hit distance to object, and pick the outside face of our leg. Now we want it to be the outside face of our leg as a new body, plus a 1/16 of an inch to make it sit a 1/16 of an inch proud of our leg. Don't worry about the fact there's no hole yet. That's okay. We'll turn the leg back off, and we're going to say create rectangular pattern, pick the body, pick a direction, which is going to be this direction. We'll drag it over. Apparently not the direction we wanted. Let's try that again. We want it to go in this direction, and we will drag it over. We only want it to go in one of those directions, so we'll say quantity 1. Doesn't matter what the direction is. We're actually going to change this to be 7 pieces. We will make them symmetrical, and we will make them go a little further out. That gives us 7, and it is going 4 inches. Looking good. Very nice. Those are going to be interesting to cut, but that's okay. Now, if I say I want to mirror, I pick all 7 of those bodies and I mirror them across the center. I don't even need to. Right, totally forgot. We're only modeling half the shelf. The joys of live. So I will say combine target body, shelf, tool bodies, those 7 pieces, to join together, and I don't need the tools when they're done, so they can go away. Now I'm going to mirror this body, just like we did a second ago when I was making a mistake, and join it across the center line, and now I have my whole shelf. If I turn back on the leg, I can see exactly what is going to happen with this. I want to create a rectangular pattern. I'm going to have that go up to the top. I will select our up direction, drag it up, and I want there to be 6 shelves. I believe the dimension was 58 minus the 4. Very good. It looks all right. But I actually want it to be 54 minus a 16th, because I want the top to protrude slightly above the top of our leg. Oh, wait a second. No. 54 minus a 16th is not getting us exactly what we want. Now let's think about this for a second. If 54 inches gets us to the top, what we need to do is go down a 16th minus the 11/16ths of the actual thickness of the shelf. And that will get us exactly 1/16 below. Now I could do that calculation and say that that's going to be 54 minus 12/16ths. 12/16ths is going to be 3/4, so 53 1/4. I could do that. It's not a problem. But if I just type the math in, it makes things so much simpler. Now, if I look at this and I say we have shelves, there are 6 of them, I am going to use the combine tool. I will cut using those 6 bodies and say keep the tools. I could have mirrored that side across and cut them both, but now if I mirror our side across the center and hit OK, if I turn off the shelves, I can see I have the joinery cut on both sides. All those nice little mortises. So that's quite good. We now have our bookshelf, and the only thing that I want to do now with our bookshelf is actually create a back. So what I will do is I am going to make a slight change to our original sketch. And I will go in and edit the sketch itself. I'm going to draw a line across the back, and I will draw a second line. We will say dimension. From the back to the first line is going to be 1/4 inch. And from the first line to the second is also going to be 1/4 inch. And I will say finish. Not bad. And we will see if this will conflict with any of our pieces here. So I will now go in, and where I made this shelf way back in the history line, I'm going to turn off those two outside lines. And we'll see if that works out for us. We now have that piece, not bad, very good. And I'm going to turn off the outside legs and take a look to see if this is working. Well, we can see that it is indeed going to cause us a problem. So if we just go back and edit our rectangular pattern, not that one, that's for our shelves. This one is the rectangular pattern for those pieces. And if we say 3 and 3/4 inches, we should now be well within our piece. We can always go back and make any changes we need. We'll turn the legs back on, and we will scroll back around here to the back. Now you can see we've actually just left a little piece off the back of each shelf. Now if I say I want to create a new sketch on the back, and I go to P for project, and I project the top line, sorry, that's not the one I wanted, and I want to project to the top shelf, copy the top shelf, the two shelves on the side, and the bottom shelf. I don't need to worry about the ones in the middle because they're not going to interfere. Now, we have several of those pieces. What I'm going to do is I will draw a line from the top corner to the bottom corner. I'll click on it and hit X to make it a guideline, and I will say I want a center point rectangle, and it is going to go actually in the center. Now if I say dimension, I want the outside edge to be inset exactly 1/4 inch. And I will do the same thing. I'll drag this up to about where I want it to be, and I will say dimension 1/4 inch outside. And that should do it for us, I think. It will cover over the back, but it won't be too much of a problem for anything else. We'll say finish sketch, and we will pick that plus the places where it overlaps. I'll scroll around and see it. That piece, and there should be a piece on the top. Yes, okay. And what I want that to do is I want it to be a 1/4 inch. We'll make it negative to go in the other direction. And we will offset it negative 1/4 inch so that it goes in and say new component. We're going to call that component back. And that component is now sitting inside, and it is flush against our shelf, but it is inset against our back, which I think is a relatively good way of doing that. You can always have the shelf overlap it if you want, but I think it works a bit better this way. So we will say cut our side piece with our back, and we'll repeat to cut our other side piece with our back. We can check our progress, turn the back off, and see that we have indeed a nice little 1/4 inch groove, 1/4 inch in from the side. And we now have that back put right there on our bookshelf. And you can see it doesn't go all the way to the floor, which I think makes it look a little bit more modern. All right, so that is our piece. That is our second bookshelf. This is a design that I thought would match up with a room that we did a while back for one of our students. And to make it match that room, we are going to have to change the wood coloring one more time. So how we do that is we open up our appearance, and all the furniture in their room is this very, very dark walnut stain. And I think that works out really, really nicely on this. The other option that we can have for this is that we're going to use a slightly different stain for the inside pieces, or just use the walnut as it already is. And that is how I would do it. I would have natural walnut shelves to show off the figure and the grain, and then on these huge sides, what we'll do is we'll have the one that matches the rest of the room, especially since it's on the outside of the piece. That's the one that's important for it to match. I think that's a cute little bookshelf. You could have several of those easily in a room, maybe one on each side of a mantel or one on each side of a door, and it would work out quite well. It's really simple, fairly easy to build. If you want to cut those square tenons, it's just a matter of a little time on your table saw setting it up, and you can bash them out really fast. Cutting those mortises will take a little time, but if you've got yourself a drill press or a drill guide and a good chisel, you can do it. If you've got a hollow chisel mortiser, you can do it really fast, but yeah, doing it with a chisel would just get you some good practice, and if you bore out the center, it really doesn't take that long, and you'd have yourself a nice bookcase, and this will last for many years. So that is all we needed to do for this second class today. And if you have found this to be useful, please let us know what you think, what else you'd like us to model for you in upcoming classes. We have a whole bunch scheduled. We're going to be doing some toolboxes, some basic joinery, some more complicated joinery. We're going to do some mitered stuff, some mitered boxes, and some other small objects like trays for serving. Other things that we might be able to do in the future, just feel free to give us some suggestions and let us know the kind of projects you're working on. If you would like us to actually help you with a project that you're working on, just let us know, and we do offer one-on-one, both in-person and online tutorial classes on anything you're looking for, so please get in touch if you have questions. If you don't mind, if you could hit like, if you've gotten this far, you probably do like what you see. If you don't like what you see, please leave a comment to tell us exactly what it is that is bothering you about our videos, and we might be able to do something about that. If you wouldn't mind, please share on your social media and with your friends. And if you want to watch some other videos that we are making now and in the future, you can hit subscribe and ring the bell, because we often do these live classes, especially in the mornings on weekdays. Anyway, we are good for the moment. I think we are finished with this, and I will see you in the next class. Have a great day modeling and building in your own shop. Thanks. Bye-bye.